Hello and welcome to DesignOS. Let's talk about a few conventions that we follow in user interface design. Specifically, I want to take the example of a button. All of us have interacted with digital products. Most of our interactions happen through a button. If you want to add an item to our Amazon cart, we click on the Add to Cart button. If you want to buy the item then and there, we click on the Buy Now button. This button that we are so accustomed to is a derivative of the real world. We obviously have buttons on our clothes like shirts and pants, but in the 1890s, with the invention of the flashlight, we were introduced with a different kind of button. Interacting with this button would turn the flashlight on or off. This was 120 years ago, and the button has evolved a little bit since. It was present on cameras, doorbells, home lights, on radios, remotes, game controllers, and more. And then finally, in the 1980s, virtual buttons finally showed up. We used a button like the one present on a mouse or a keyboard to touch the button on our screens. It was not a direct interaction like the one we had on the first flashlight, but it was a look into the future. Today, the button has changed. We use our fingers to touch these buttons on our touchscreen devices. The future may have buttonless interactivity with the introduction of voice assistants, but for this series, we're going to assume that the future with voice only interaction is still a little bit far away. We draw a correlation between the working of a flat button on a display with the real world physical buttons. We know that something is going to happen if we click on it, it's almost an expectation. Going back to the example of a calculator, if we take a person who has never interacted with the digital product, this person will need to figure out what all these different buttons on a calculator do, right? Well, not quite. This person only needs to learn what a single button does, the rest will come to them easily. Once the user learns that the button with the number 8 on the calculator helps the user input the number 8 into the system, the user can figure out the rest of the calculator pretty quickly. By extension, this user will also be able to figure out an ATM machine, a dialer on a phone, or anything with a number pad on it. This is how users get used to some conventions in user interfaces. They see something in one product and try to correlate it with other products. We only need to teach the person once and then it becomes natural. These conventions are all well and good, but to keep our work original and exciting, we would not want to make a bland and conventional interface. We'll learn how to do that soon enough. Conventions do not end with buttons. Conventions are something that you will keep learning about throughout your career in UI design. New conventions will keep coming up, and you might even create a convention for the entire world to adapt to. Something like a magnifying glass is a convention for search. We go on Google or any other search engine for that matter, it will have a magnifying glass icon next to the text field to let us know that we need to enter an input here. Try to think of more conventions you see in UI design. Things like the hamburger menus, the mic icon, the shutter button in camera apps, QR codes, and many more.